Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to have a conversation and be on the show. I've been following your career for quite some time, and it's just been like watching someone climbing a ladder rung by rung, and you're just knocking it out of the park. For those of us maybe who are listening and are not familiar with you, why don't you do a little bit of an introduction and just the exciting things that just recently happened?
Okay. So, my name is Amy Campo. I train in Ogden, Utah with my coach Eduardo Mori at Mori Training Center. We're a Zenith affiliate. I've been training since I was 13, which this year is 10 years in training. And through this year and last year, I've been able to compete and place in some very large tournaments, naming ADCC, and IBJJF Worlds Gi and No Gi.
I know it has been really wonderful to watch you compete, and it's just so methodical. You know, it's sometimes you watch people in the ADCC bracket, and it's just like they're getting shot out of a cannon. It just seems like I can't even follow, but just watching it, so technical. I would love to hear, I know you play a lot of traditional guard stuff. I would love to hear, why did you settle on that approach? I don't want to say settle, but why did you approach your tournaments with that particular mindset?
With like traditional or basic jiu-jitsu, kind of like old school jiu-jitsu, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Because I think my base in jiu-jitsu is along those lines, is more like old school jiu-jitsu that's for of a fight, you know, where strikes are consideration. And I think there's a lot in the basics that is just simple and can be applied universally. And quite frankly, it's effective. You know, why change from something so simple and effective? And, you know, but that's not to say don't add it in something specific and something different that kind of throws somebody off. You know, I think they both have their time and their place. And I think I don't know, I learned to use them.
Yeah, no, it's very effective. I know you're in a weight class, I believe, one or two above me, and it's just so fascinating to watch you move that, you know, sometimes when I see I don't want to say heavier as an insult, but, you know, bigger girls competing, you know, it's, you know, sometimes you can see that it's a different weight class, but it just seems like you're flowing and moving like somebody in my weight class, and that's kind of terrifying. But to think, oh no, oh man, that'd be bad if she was in my division. But,
yeah, I can see that. I think that's a great thing too, because I think especially among women, athleticism is a huge part of the sport, and you can go really far with good technique. In fact, what you need is good technique. But one of the edges I think a competitor can have is their athleticism and their agility, their ability to move. You know, because if I can have speed on my side, if I can have agility and timing on my side, then that just adds to how much more capable I am. These are like some of the finesse details that you can add to your jiu-jitsu. So I've always thought that, and you know, what's one of the worst things, I've only ever had this happen once, getting tired in the middle of a fight and feeling like this sucks and I want to quit because I'm so tired.
Yeah.
That should not happen, and it's terrible. So I think I would rather be so conditioned that, okay, even if I can't beat you on technique, I've got so much more will to move and fight than you do, that I can still win at the end. And it has worked for me a couple times. You know, I don't want my body to give out before my mind does. So I value that a lot, and I think that is one thing that differentiates between women. I think women that are conditioned, well, just physically and mentally, they're just stronger. They're stronger physically, and oftentimes they have a stronger mental capacity because they've been through more pain and suffering. And I think that gives them a significant edge over their opponent.
Oh yeah, about to say, I've just recently been working with some mental training for jiu-jitsu with Aaron Hurley, and I've noticed that the mental aspect, so often as competitors, and I think it's now getting more in vogue, we just ignore it and we think, oh, it's just all physical. It's like, no, a lot of it's mental, like you were saying.
No, yeah. You're not going to be, think, if your mind controls your body, if you have a strong mind, you can push your body to breaking limits. If you have a weak mind, it doesn't matter how strong your body is, you'll break and you'll quit. You can have this, can you see this? You have this massively capable body that can do so much, and so much as a little thought, not even a doubt, but a distraction, can keep you from doing your best, from winning something, from being something, from doing something you've always wanted to do. Our minds have this crazy capacity to move us. And just a strong mind is your front for anything you want to do. I don't know how I can put that into better words. Because there's so many ways you can take that for different applications in life. Just your mind is where everything is going to start.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The mind is such a powerful tool. And you even think with clinical trials, you have to have a placebo group, because just the mere suggestion that, hey, this is going to help you, your brain, just on that suggestion, you can start feeling better and doing better, so you have to have that placebo control. And I was curious as to, as you're approaching each fight, and it's, I've listened to some other podcasts and some other interviews you've given about just how many people have believed in you even before you realized you could achieve, this level of success in jiu-jitsu. What was that like for you? That just somebody believing in you before you even knew to believe in yourself.
What was it like at the time, or what's it like now? Because now I feel like, wow, I can just tell how much these people love me. I can tell how much these people care about me and how much they want from me. But back then, I was still just like, okay, cool. You think that. That doesn't mean I'm gonna be it. Like, in fact, sometimes it felt like, there's just a couple times it felt like maybe even pressure, because they're like, oh no, you're gonna do good, and I'm like, I don't know that. Like, this is an expectation now, and I don't know if I'm going to live up to it. And other times it was just like, you think I can do it? Really? I think where it became a strength to me is when I started to believe that my coach knew what he was doing. As soon as I believed that what he was saying, like I saw it happen a couple times for me, where he's like, this is how it's going to happen. You're going to do these things. You're going to do well. And I saw it happen. I was like, oh, wow, okay. But then I saw him coach other people, and I saw how he could predict what was going to happen and how they would do. And he was that intuitive and intelligent when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So once I started to put my trust in him more, then I started to be like, okay, you say I'm going to do good, I'm going to do good. And I'm going to go in there, I'm going to do it. And even if I don't, I'm still going to do my absolute best and make it as difficult as possible for you to do anything with me. And so I'd have a backup mentality, I guess you could say. Yeah, as soon as I trusted him, I was like, you know what you say is going to happen, because you know what you're doing and I trust you. And I'm thinking that trust, when in those moments where you said that, those few moments where it was, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted, which, is, I guess, that trust and that belief, if you're internalizing that, that's going to help. Does that help you propel you in those moments, or do you even think about that? Or I think I haven't had too many experiences where I wasn't conditioned or ready for a fight. Okay. So it's not been a big experience for me, because usually that's one of the first things my coach develops really well, is he develops a really strong mind and amount of grit and ability to handle pressure and struggle. So that hasn't been a huge issue for me at all. Okay. Nothing I have a lot of experience with. Okay. What motivates me, I think, when I'm struggling in a fight, or just, in the back and forth, and the fight's going back and forth, I think when I consider my need to be able to perform, if I were to need to protect myself or someone else, I guess you would say when I consider it as in a perspective or a light where I need to be capable of doing this, so I need to pull this out of myself, and if not, I'm gonna lose something. Usually it's like, if I can't pull this off, I'm gonna get hurt, or this person's gonna come after me. Like, when somebody, it's actually kind of nice, because somebody else can put the pressure on me and it helps me switch modes. It's actually kind of nice when they do. But yeah, like, that's really motivating for me. As soon as I know somebody's coming after me, I switch modes. And I think with that in mind too, sometimes when fights are so strategic that there's not a lot of like just genuine, I want to see who's better interactions, I want to just, climb. Sometimes fights that aren't that way, that are so strategic that they're slow, sometimes those fights are a huge turnoff for me because I feel like you're just sitting there, like you're not trying to fight me, you're trying to win the tournament, and those two things are different.
Right. So I know that's always something where it's, you want it to be fast paced, you want it to be action packed, but then at the same time, it's just how do you make it where it's simulating the fight, but you also have the point system. It's every tournament's a little bit different. You've done IBJJF, you've done ADCC. I know in the first couple of minutes there's not the you don't pull guard, that kind of stuff. Which atmosphere do you think is more conducive for that kind of push that you're looking for?
I think ADCC is. Okay. Because I think you can use a lot of strategy in ADCC, but the way the rules are set up, you don't get into as many positions that are what the Brazilians call jiujitsu, where they're so technical that they're boring. I think one of the rules is the guard pulling, and if you have an active guard and you're going after it, it's great. And half the time I pull guard, but still it's whatever. I'm not hating on guard pullers all the time I do it. But I think it can be easy to just want to monopolize and play one game and monopolize that strategy, because it takes away passing a guard is one of the hardest things you can do. And when you stay there, you can defend. It takes somebody who's like at a much better offense to beat somebody's defense, and you can monopolize that position, and you can waste a lot of time. You can be as active or as passive as you want. And so I think I like when the playing field's equalized and there's no guard pulling, because then we have the atmosphere or the aspect of takedowns where we can score points. And then once we have takedowns, then we can start, okay, now we're on the ground, let's pass, let's chain things together. But then, there's the whole aspect of the fight that a lot of jiu-jitsu people I feel like aren't playing tons with, because you can monopolize the guard. And that aspect of a fight, I don't think is super applicable to striking. Some of the bases behind jiu-jitsu that involve strikes. You wouldn't sit on the ground. If you had one person, maybe you could do it, maybe you could get away with it, but they're probably going to hit you a couple times first. Right. But I don't know, anyways, I like ADCC's rules better, because you can use good strategy, but you have to move. Yeah. And I think ADCC rewards or gives points for more things, like reverses. Say I'm on top in side control, and you roll me over, now you're on top for side control. IBJJF just calls that a reverse, but there's a huge change in now who's dominant, and ADCC rewards that. IBJJF does not. And I like some of those things, because I was like, hey, there's a clear change in like who's dominant, who's doing good, and I feel like that should be identified and like rewarded. Yeah. But I like both of them. I think both of them have taught me very specific things.
And so and I know you have just such a methodical approach in your training, and I know you say that you really don't change things up right before fight week. You just kind of dial in those aspects that you've always done, and just you don't deviate, right? You need to prioritize sleep. Would you say, I know that you value hard training, so would you say that you have a more maybe nitty-gritty, grinded out training philosophy as opposed to tapering off towards fight week? What would you describe as your kind of approach towards training, if that makes sense?
So I think the first thing I'll say is that my coach handles the training camp, and I handle my body's awareness and intuition to how my body can perform. And we both communicate about how the two of those things can be the most effective. So my coach will handle the training, and I will handle my mind and my body, and I will come prepared to give my all, but also making him aware of how I'm doing, so that he can he can know my limits at the same time as I can, because if it's just me checking my limits, there can be room where I am not completely honest with myself, and he's my backup. He's the one who's like, no, I know your limits too. You can do more. I'm going to push you to do more when you want to quit. So we work as a team to develop a training that is needed for the tournament, because the training for each tournament can be different too. They're not all the same. But that still takes care of me. And, because it is possible to overtrain, and it is possible to get hurt before. And that's a funny balance. I've had a couple fight camp preparations where towards the end of the training camp, a couple weeks before the tournament, we started going like less than, it gets really hard, and we started going less than that. And I was like, wait, is this okay that we're not going like as hard as we can right now? And it was because my body was getting to the point where it's like, hey, you're needing more recovery than you're needing hard training right now. You're getting close to where you could get hurt. So this is what your body needs. And as long as we can maintain a sufficient level of like athleticism, it's okay. And I didn't know that was okay at first. At first I was just like, you just need to train hard all the time. And then as I got better, we both developed a balance and a finesse for how to prepare.
Yeah, about to say, because there's so many, and it is what you said, a finesse. It's that art to that training. Every coach is kind of like an artist in that way. And every athlete, are artists. You have to find what works for you. And so often, I've had a few people I've trained with that they are nitty gritty, and they don't listen to their body, like you said you need to do, and they end up hurting something like the day before their fight. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awful. But
yeah, because how much good does it do you if you're like, I want to fight so hard. Like, I want to fight so hard. I come. Here's what I do. Mentally, I come prepared to do the hardest training camp, the hardest training day. Mentally, I come prepared to do that, but then I trust the specifications my coach gives for the training camp. I trust what level he wants to push and how much he wants to do. I'm willing to do what he says. And that's how we balance that. But yeah, how much good does it do to be like, yeah, I want to train so hard and train so hard, but you don't balance it with recovery. And then you just get hurt. And it's like, oh, what you wanted to train so hard for, you can't even do now because you were an idiot. You didn't balance yourself out.
Right. It would be terrible. Yeah.
And rest doesn't necessarily have to mean you don't go to the gym. Sometimes I'll go to the gym and it's a rest day and I'm just there lightly rolling and learning. And sometimes if I'm hurt, I'm just there and I don't even participate in the class really. I just sit by the side and I watch. And it's amazing how much I've learned in the classes where I've just come and just watched, where I was hurt and I couldn't be close to people who are rolling, I've learned so much on those days. But in that way, I can still be learning in one of the aspects of jiu-jitsu, because there's a handful of different aspects behind being competition ready, and just in jiu-jitsu in general. You have an area of explosiveness, of technique, of strength, of speed, and timing, and how all those things go together. And, one day, maybe you come in and you can't go 100% on everything every day. Maybe today I can go 100% on one of them and less on another one, and maybe the next day it's 100% on another one and less on another one. Does that make sense? And that way you can balance them out, still be going 100% or still be learning, training and developing, and at the same time be resting. It's like, you know what a good comparison for that is? It's going to the gym and working out. One day I'll do arms, and then the next day I'll give my arms a break and I'll do legs. So duh.
Yeah.
Balance, people.
Yes, so important. Yes, I'm a big proponent of just taking care of your body, listening to yourself, and I'm kind of one of those people. If I'm sick and I know I can't roll, I'll go and watch too. But it's killing me inside. It's like I want to be rolling, but I don't need to be throwing up either. So. But what does your recovery look like? Obviously, you've said sometimes it's just watching a class. Sometimes it is going to the gym. I know there's certain things that are seemingly all the rage right now with recovery, like the cryo ice baths, the saunas. What does your recovery? What are your kind of go-tos?
Mental or physical?
That's a very good specification. Let's start with the physical and then we'll go to the mental.
Cool. So, physical. Okay. There are some things that are your basics, and if you're not hitting your basics or your fundamentals, it doesn't matter what accessory items you do. Some of the basics are you getting enough rest? And that's something you got to know for your body. For me personally, it's 8 or 9 hours. Sometimes I can get by with like 6 or less, and it's okay. It's okay for a day or two. You do that consistently, and I start to go downhill. That's my limit. A specific detail on that, when you're getting closer to tournament, you sleep more because you're under more stress, and it's easier for you to get sick and get injured. So I start sleeping more like 10 hours.
Okay.
Closer to tournaments. So sleep, you need to be hitting enough hours and quality hours, which means for me, like I try to just optimize the sleep setting. We'll just leave it at that. There's like little details you can add to that, but we'll leave it there. Good sleep. Okay, you need a good diet. For me, I know I'm one of those people that actually needs like at least 3 servings of greens a day just to feel good. And depending on what you're training for, you need more carbs, more protein, more fat, depending on what you're training for. So you need to have a diet plan that's in tune to your needs. Okay, that's healthy and in tune for what you're needing. Now, there's with activity, there's other activities that act as your fun and also just healthy, just activity that's just healthy. Not necessarily I'm trying to drive to train myself to be specific in some area, but it's just healthy activity. Sports is healthy activity. Hiking is healthy activity. Some of those things that are a little bit more recreational and also contribute to fun. That's a balance in physical activity. That's like a break. That this is going into mental a little bit too. It's like a break, but it's also still enhancing your health while maybe slightly contributing to your physicality. So those are your basics. Is like balance, rest, or balance, sleep, and good diet. Your basics. Now, some accessories that I like to use. When I'm really consistent about doing ice baths, I feel great. My body seems to recover quicker. The inflammation is down, and I feel less pain. I feel so good. It's really cool. I've done a lot of ice baths with my brother. We'll do like the Wim Hof breathing and do rounds and stay in for X amount of rounds or X amount of minutes. And sometimes we even get back in a second time. And it's crazy how aware and in tune I became of my body by doing that, because you're under stress to get in that much cold, to like feel that much cold and to stay there, but then also to regulate your breathing the way we've been doing. It's like an incredible way to practice mental strength. And I noticed my ability to control myself under stress in the gym enhanced significantly. And things that would usually be high stress for me were now dropped very low. And I had so much more control over myself and over what I was thinking. Another cool thing about the baths is I could feel my body really well. And when I would get out of the bath, I knew that I didn't stay in long enough, because I would feel exactly where heat would rush to in my body, exactly where inflammation would rush to. I'd stand up and be like, my knee just lit up, and I was like, oh, I need to get back in. Like this is not good. I don't feel good. I need to get back in. And sometimes I have, and it helps a ton to reduce all the inflammation in your body, and that helps with healing. So ice baths is something that I like to recover with. Sauna or hot tub is also nice to like kind of relax. And a lot of times I would like to pair the two of them together. Now, if I could be really consistent at this, I think would be the best. As well as those two things are another form of training, because one, it practices mental control, breathing control under stress, and vasodilation and constriction for your blood vessels that helps you be able to switch on and off, explode, to sprint, to perform. So there's a lot of benefits that come with those things. Massage, a little bit of massage would be nice. I don't go out and get massages regularly. Like that's expensive. I'm not gonna. I like them. It's a nice accessory item, but like you don't need that. I mean, maybe you might need every now and then. I lay on like a tennis ball, a sports ball, or something to like grind out a muscle. So that's kind of an accessory as well.
Hey!
Hey, there we go.
We're back. Oh, the joys of internet.
Yes, my bad. I think it was mine
Okay.
that was retarded. Okay, we're back.
So before we got cut off, I was asking if you had been familiar or had heard of the work done by Dr. Rhonda Patrick and her sauna studies and such.
Her name sounds so familiar, but I'm not sure.
Okay. About to say, I think she's been on a couple of podcasts. If you know the name Andrew Huberman.
Yes.
Yeah, she's been on his podcast. They've talked all about saunas and stuff like that, and inspired me to actually rig up a sauna in our outdoor shed. And we're down here, and I used we'll call it a grow tent, and I got a couple of space heaters. So like a crazy person. And the hot, humid, deep south weather right now, I've got a sauna that can get up to like 160 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You didn't need the heaters.
No. So we can't, I don't have access to the ice baths, but the only thing I can do, I get a bunch of frozen bottles of water, over 40 pounds worth, of water that's frozen, and I just put it in the bathtub. So you do what you can do.
Right. Yeah. I just learned about the reusable water, because we would pour bags of ice when it's not the winter. We would pour bags of ice, but the little ice pellets melt so quickly, so we started doing big cubes, and those make it cold. But then we had to keep buying them, which isn't a problem, but it's just like an extra step. So the water bottles is going to be what I think we're going to end up sticking with.
Yes, it's so much easier, and you can get several packs of water bottles for, not that much, just got to have a big enough freezer. So we've talked about, literally it's cool. So now that we've talked about the physical, and we were now, talking about the ice baths and the heat exposure, that was kind of a midway point into the mental recovery. So what do you do for your mental recovery?
So one thing is, because I already talked about it, I'll start with this one.
Okay. Just
like a balance in activities, so that you have a balance in focus, and that way you're not too much in one place that you can't take your mind off of it, because there's such thing as too much thinking about jiu-jitsu, and it becomes too much when it becomes too much when it becomes too much pressure on yourself and you don't have balance. So I think some balanced activity is helpful. Like a lot of times for me, it ends up being school. Like I'll work on my schoolwork, and that's a good break from jiu-jitsu. Other times it's like doing a different activity, reading, studying, playing with my family, or every now and then going out and doing something. So a balanced activity is also a mental break as well. And another thing I think that is helpful for mental recovery, or even just mental stability, is just kind of what you prepare your thoughts with. Let me think of a good way to say some of this. I think understanding why you're here is really helpful, or what you're looking for with here. And I think the way I would put it, and the way I have put it before, is I like to remember the truth. The truth about me going to training every day when I'm anxious is that I want to be here and that I like this. That's the first truth, is that I actually really enjoy this. The second truth is that the difficulties of training right now are what I want, because they're helping me towards a goal that I also want, for whatever reason that I want it. So the difficulties that I'm facing in training are welcomed. They're what I want. Now, I also come to do my best too. I'm not always perfect. I still sometimes, every now and then, I would get anxious for training. I come prepared to train really hard. Like, I set my expectation above what I think the difficulty of the class will be, so that I don't feel overwhelmed with how much I'm being given in the class, if that makes sense. And, while I'm in class, if I do get to the point where I'm overwhelmed with the training, I tune my focus to just focusing on my most immediate task. And then if I can focus on that, I focus on doing it really well. and then I'm given the next one. And I'm one of those people that likes to complete tasks. So then I start to feel good because I'm like, oh, I completed that one. Oh, I completed it well. Give me the next one. Give me the next one. For a couple of years there, coach would be doing burnouts and stuff at the end of class, and I'd finish what exercise he would have us do, and I'd be like, okay, what's the next one? Okay, what's the next one? Okay, the next one. And he got to be like, man, stop. Stop asking me these questions. And I was like, yes, David Goggins, I took your soul.
I love it.
But no, yeah, sometimes, because challenge and completing tasks are two things that are satisfying for me. But that same logic helps me get me out of any anxiety or stress or nerves that I have, because then I'm put in a perspective of truth instead of like panic or worries or doubts or fear. I'm just put in a perspective of truth, and that truth is that these are the things I want, these are the things I love doing, and I'm going to get something out of this that I'm really wanting and really seeking. And I've used that to help get me out of any nerves before a fight or any anxiety before a fight. I've used that to completely change my countenance, and to go along with it, I changed my capacity for performance. I changed my level of will to perform. And I did that 2 or 3 times, and it was a really neat experience. I felt like I had, the 2 or 3 times it happened, I felt like I changed who I was as a fighter. My fighter identity changed after some of these experiences. And I just soaked it all in. They were like some of the best moments I've had so far.
Oh, man, I am jealous. That sounds amazing. So it's that I love you're saying it's the truth of why you're here, why you're doing this, and not allowing that negative maybe voice being like, well, this is too hard. Well, no, I want this, so you're checking that, with that's really good.
Yeah. And, sometimes, so there's like a balance between not letting the garbage in and keeping focused on the positive. And if you sit in a neutral, like either can come and go, the difficult ones are going to come a little more often than the good ones are. So I find it easier to focus on. There's an analogy I've learned about, and it's about a skier who's going down a hill that has a lot of switchbacks. And if you focus on don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, what are you manifesting? Tree. Hit and tree. Even if you say don't, you're still manifesting the tree. So you think to yourself, stick to the white, 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 so that you train your focus, and all of your manifesting becomes the things you're focusing on. So I like that better than just keeping the trash out. I like I'm focusing on accomplishing a mission, because I think it's more powerful.
That's a good distinction. Yeah, when you're focusing on the positive, typically you're going to have more apt to have a positive outcome. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think some of my friends would call that neural priming, I think, but I am not a psychologist, so I cannot comment on that. So
I'd be curious to know, because I love learning about philosophy and neurology and physiology. I love all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I just teach literature. That's all I do. So, but so when you're talking about that zone where it's just like you changed your identity as a fighter, there was one match that I was wanting to kind of get your insight into, just how you approached it. You came away with a win and the victory, but when you were matched up against Gabby Garcia, that's quite a size difference. I would be terrified, but you came out with the win. I mean, so how did you approach that in a way, because you've been matched with people who are heavier than you and bigger than you, and you seem to do incredibly well. So how do you manage maybe that anxiety, and attack those matches?
Okay. So my fight with Gabby Garcia was the second experience I had with that same principle of remember the truth to handle your anxiety. So where do I start with this? So before I went out to fight her, I was in the back, and I don't usually get nervous or anxious for fights anymore. I just kind of have to stay in this heightened and prepared state. Like it's a constant focus, even so much as that you don't even fully commit yourself to sleep the night before, because you are that focused on being willing to fight at any moment. because that's how I like to fight, is I like to just be prepared to do anything that I need to. So I'll be that focused. So I was in the back and I was preparing to go out, and this time I did happen to feel a little bit of nerves, and I was wondering, like, because you're anxious. I don't get super nervous, but I will get anxious. And I'm anxious because I don't know exactly what's going to happen. That's the definition of anxiety, by the way, is like there's uncertainty behind the outcome of an event. So I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know exactly how she was going to come at me, or, and I guess to a degree I did know, but it's just uncertain. You don't know who's going to choose what at when. So I was a little anxious, and I stopped myself and told myself, okay, remember the truth. What's the truth behind this tournament? Well, the truth is that this is exactly the kind of experience and level of experience that I want to have. This is exactly the amount of challenge, exactly the kind of person, the kind of odds I would want to face. And this is exactly what I want to be doing. I'm exactly where I want to be. And when I thought those things, my entire countenance changed. Any of the anxiety or nerves that I had, it just all went away, and it was replaced with this immense amount of excitement and this curiosity for what I could do. And I was so excited to just go out there and be all that I could be, and whatever happened. I don't have to win this. What's true also at the end of the day is that I'm going to take away a marvelous experience from this, some marvelous lessons and experience spent with my team. And the entire venue, that I'm going to take something marvelous away from this. And at the end of the day, that's still a win. So when I changed those things in my head, I could just be free. And this was my second experience being free like this. And I love how I felt it so much. You can see it on my face when I walk out. We had to do this big long walk, and I walked up the stairs, and as you go out, my excitement is just building and building. And I walk out, and there's all these people, and I notice the people, but it doesn't get in my head too much. But you see my face. So if we watch the video, I get on the stage and I look around, and I walk down. I go right to the mat. I walk down the ramp. I walk down the ramp, and I'm taking off my jacket, and I have no idea which mat I'm on. I'm just heading out there, and then they're like, oh wait, you're over here, go here. So I get on my mat and I just get ready to go, and it's like, okay, well, here we go. And I use that same thing to help me in the middle of the fight too, the remembering the truth. My coach studies my opponents with me, mostly for me, because he's just that good, and he prepares me for what I need. And the truth behind what I needed to be in that fight is a couple things. One is, we knew kind of what she was going to do. She likes you to shoot on her, and then she wants to smash you flat as a pancake. Right. So we're like, well, just don't do that, because that seems to be working really well. So don't play into a game that they're especially good at. Another thing I used to kind of help me feel a little bit more confident or believe in myself is two things, really. I fight big people at the gym all the time. All the time. So how different is this? She's another big person, which was accurate. Yeah. So there are some things you do and don't do when you fight with big people. And one of them is not to get on bottom. So I was like, okay, we did this a lot in MMA, and when you train takedowns, you don't get taken down. Don't give up going on bottom. So most of the fight, I actually stayed up. And it was like, okay, if you want to shoot on me, great. I mean, I'll try some things on you, but I know with her being that much bigger too, and between the level, because she's probably been competing as long as I've been alive. That's a huge disparity between knowledge, time, and technique. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I could learn the techniques she knows, but you add different. You learn more as you're a black belt. You learn more. So there's this huge disparity in how much experience she has as a black belt and how much I have. So I know that I can't make mistakes. or I mean, and that seems harsh to think you can't make mistakes, but I mean, what I would say is I have to be very sure about what move I'm going to use, or more than that, when I'm going to do it. I have to be sure that I have a good opportunity and I take it with full heart. So there's a strategy that goes along with that too. It's a long match. You don't want to spend all of your energy, especially with a bigger person, right away.
Right.
So you feel out the match a little bit, and that's just rational. Feel out the match a little bit. I got to about the halfway point, and I started trying more takedowns. And I know some of the things I'm good at for taking down bigger people. She's a bigger person, so they just kind of went well together. I'm good at some of these things, and these are the things I use on big people. So, and one of those was the arm drag to the single. And so I waited till I tried it a couple times. And one of the times I picked up her leg, and I was like, I could actually do this. I could actually pick up her leg. And then just the timing and everything just happened so right close to the end of the fight, where there's not a lot of chance for her to recover afterwards or land on top. Towards the end of the fight, I scored a perfectly timed single leg to single arm drag to a single leg. I scored a perfect one of those, and I made sure to land on top and stay on top and try to submit until the fight was over. And I did it with the perfect timing, had the perfect time of the match, and I just landed a solid technique. So there's a lot of things that are better things to do and lesser things to do. And I tried to stay in that margin of what's the best moves I can make right now for the entire fight. And it was kind of cool. I acted on believing these things, believing that I could do it. I felt like I could do it because, at the end of the day, she's a big person. So I acted on the belief that I could do it. And as I believed in myself, my success was that much faster. And that's what was crazy, is to see what I believed be proved and now be knowledge. And so I take her down. As soon as I take her down, I'm like, oh, I did it. I took her down. And then I was like panicking in my head, and I was like, okay, what now? Well, you got to get on top. You can't get on bottom. So I was like, oh, get on top. And then I got on top, and I was like, well, now what? Pass the guard. Pass the guard. Mount. Okay, mount. Okay, now what? I'm in mount on Gabby Garcia. Take the arm. So I tried to arm guard her, and I didn't quite get it, but I got really close, and the match stops, and he stands us up, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did it. Yeah. And I wasn't actually sure. I stood up, and the ref's like, hey, we're going to go to overtime. And I was like, did I not get anything for that? Nothing? Then he's like, well, hold on, I'll go check with the table. And so they started discussing points. And as soon as I saw the points fluctuate, I knew I was going to get points, whether it was 1 or whether it was 5. I don't even care. But I knew I was going to get points, and then that would be the end of the match. So I felt comforted then, and I was like, it's done. Okay, I don't have to fight her anymore. I'm done. and they raised my hand, and we were done. And the experience was had. I didn't celebrate when I got into the back, though. I think I was a little like, wow, for like 5 minutes, but I didn't allow myself to celebrate because I knew the entire tournament wasn't done. So I needed to send myself back into focus mode to make sure I was willing to fight my next match. Right. And the next match was a breeze after that.
Man, I mean, just hearing you describe, like, got to do this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing. I'm just hearing the task, what you were talking about earlier. I have this task, and then I have this task, and this task.
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
But, I mean.
Yeah, because I was like, I believed I could do it, but then it was real, and I was doing it, and I was like, well, keep going. Okay, keep going. And I talk about this in another podcast. Some people don't realize how close they are to their success, and they give up. And it's like, that's one of the things I took into that fight as well, is I put myself like on the edge, where I was like, okay, pretend the entire time you're here that you are right on the edge of beating it. You're right there. You're right there. And I think if, that's encouraging for people when they feel like the round's about to be done, you're about to win. They're like, yeah, I can do this. I can keep doing this. If I just do this a little bit more, I can do it. So I wanted to keep myself on an edge that was like, you're right about to do it. You're right about to do it. Give more, give more, give more. And I was there.
Yeah.
but kind of cool.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I just think about, your experience, and it's just being an inspiration for women in jiu-jitsu who want to try competing, and you still have that hunger to compete. You still have that drive, like you're on that edge. What advice would you give to women out there who are, and young women, older women, who may want to get out there and compete, but they may have that trepidation?
What advice would I give to women in whatever circumstance to compete and they're scared or they're nervous? I think of a couple things. One is identifying if you have the resources to be able to do that. Do you have a team? Do you have a coach that you trust that can be insightful and guide you? Because if you don't have some of your basics, well, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have what you need. And can you get the time in, like the dedicated time in to compete? Like, is that doable? Can you make that work? If this is what I want, can I make this work? So identify if it's doable. And most everything is doable as long as you apply will. And you might have to apply sacrifice to that. So, I don't know. Identify if you have the resources to actually do what you want to do. Then you do it. And once you do that, is you just commit to it. Because if you have those basics, you can do it. And I know it sounds so cliche. It's like, well, just do it. That sounds so cliche, and everyone's like, ha, yeah, right. And, it doesn't sound that encouraging, but I think if you have your basics met, it's not going to be as bad as you think, and you're going to do, like, the experience it's not going to be as bad as you think. It's not going to be as scary as you think. And as soon as you try it, you'll know. You could maybe try it once. Then you know exactly what to expect. Or I think a different piece of advice I would give is go to the tournament without competing. Go and see how the tournament runs. There's a lot of stimulus going on the day of your first tournament. So if you want to minimize some of that and prepare for some of that stimulation of like everything that's going on, go see how it goes first. Okay, now you know what to expect, and now you can have most of your attention go towards fighting.
That's a really good advice. I've actually not heard to just go and check out the venue first if you've never competed before. That's actually a really good idea. Okay. Connected.
Haha.
Yes, there we go.
Look what I have done.
Yes.
I've stolen a different phone.
There you go.
Now I need to turn it up. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. As long as we get connected.
Yes. Okay. So I remember the thought that I was trying to say. Do you want me to just start my thought over?
Just start your thought over. Yes.
Another piece of advice I think I would give to people who are looking into competing is I would say go to the tournament you're looking at competing in and see what it's like first without competing, because there's a lot of stimulus that's going on and it can be overwhelming. So go look at everything, see how it all goes, and that way when you choose to come back and compete, all those things you can kind of plan and have prepared for, and you can give more of your focus and attention towards your competition or your matches.
And I remember before we cut out, I was just thinking, like, that's a really good piece of advice because, I remember my first tournament, I just had such an adrenaline dump that, I almost passed out after my first match, and I still needed to compete, So I think that's really, yes, fun times. White belt had been only competing 3 months and then about fell over. So, but fun times, right? Yeah. No, but I think that if I had watched a competition ahead of time, I would have anticipated, that a little bit better, I think. So I think that's really solid advice to give someone.
Yeah.
So my question kind of more in the specifics of, females, or maybe more generalities of females competing. How have you seen the I would say the availability of females to compete in jiu-jitsu versus when you first began?
I think there's a little bit more than when I first started. Of course, when I first started, I was, doing some of the kids or teen stuff, some of those competitions. And sometimes, well, more often than not, I was combined in categories with kids from all kinds of other categories. And half the time, or more than half the time, it was with the boys. And that was fine for me because I've always trained with the guys. I've compared competing with them or training with them to, I need to be capable. This comes back to the need I expressed earlier, where I need to be capable of taking care of myself and making myself perform when I need to. And guys are a good standard. If I need to protect myself from a guy, let me train with a guy. I want it to be close, or at least closest to reality as I can get it. And so I'm going to train with a guy. And if a girl wants to attack me too, okay, great. You're not as strong as a guy. So competing, it wasn't abnormal at all for me to be competing with the boys, and that was fine. Now, though, I think there are a little bit more girls who are competing, and so that's nice. I'm rolling with girls. I think rolling with girls is easier in some senses and maybe a little more challenging in other senses, because I think they can be, because they have to be, if they train with guys, they have to be a little more nimble, strategic, kind of quirky and kind of make things work. And technical and fast especially. And I think guys, you can probably count on that they're going to try to strongman you. And there's some leverage things that you can do with that. So they're challenging in different ways. But I think rolling men is more challenging because you get a technical guy and a guy who's strong. And it's like, okay, now I have to work really hard to do something. Like I said, the athleticism factor with girls. Some girls are very technical, but they're not very athletic or strong. And pressure is a huge component that drives some of the techniques in jiu-jitsu and is a factor in, weight and pressure. Those are huge contributors to convincing somebody to move or to convincing somebody to tap out. And I'm learning more and more lately how just your basic gi chokes, all those are set up with a heavy amount of grinding and pressure and making them super uncomfortable. And that's how you get arm bars too. Hopefully they turn over and they make a mistake with their arm. But a lot of times you can put a lot of pressure on them and make them kind of panic and try to push you away. And you're like, thanks, I got your arm. Pressure itself is a setup, is a part of technique. And I think some girls, they can't handle pressure. And I think it's great that there's weight classes because that helps mitigate, how much weight you have sitting on you. Not necessarily how much pressure, but how much weight. So I think that's helpful for the growth of the sport. But that's a huge thing, and something I always want to be able to handle is pressure. I don't want to lose a fight because I couldn't take the pressure or weight of somebody I was fighting. That's not okay for me. That's not my standard for myself.
And because you mentioned earlier, kind of getting in that zone of protecting yourself or someone you love, right? And 9 times out of 10, if you're getting, attacked on the street, it's probably going to be somebody bigger and stronger. And, they're going to be giving it, their all to do you or someone you love harm. So you've got to be able to rise to that occasion.
Yeah. And and I don't even think there's other aspects to a street fight, and there's probably even more that I'm not aware of. And so I definitely don't think this is a solve all, but at least you can have some comfort and maybe even some security, a little bit of mental security, just knowing that you can do something about it, that you have some options that you can think of and have as a go-to in situations like that. And I think that in itself is valuable. But there's just more that goes into a street fight, weapons, area, equal initiative and equal armament. Are they coming with weapons? Are we coming with the same intention of, okay, we're both going to fight, or is one person coming by surprise? Those are all significantly different factors than a jiu-jitsu match, or even than rolling, because most of the time it's like equal armament. We both know we're trying to fight. So I don't think it's a solve all, but I think it helps. I think it contributes to some mental peace, and like, maybe I can do something about this. I can have some sort of control of the situation, and I might just be able to take care of it.
Oh yeah.
Not going to count on that. I'm going to try to give myself as many weapons and options as I can get.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, and that's something that I always advocate for my girls that I teach, in the classroom, not in a jiu-jitsu setting, but to try jiu-jitsu, because, if you go off to college, girls, you can learn what to do if a guy throws you on the ground or pins you in the back of a car or something like that, and have confidence, to respond and get away, And so I try to encourage as many people as I can to join, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I think some of it is they are afraid, like you said a lot of girls can't handle pressure, that physical pressure. But and I think that's part of it. They're afraid of getting, not smothered. That's not quite the right word, but where they couldn't move, like, and they're on the ground. I think that's something that they do have genuine trepidation about. So
gotcha. Makes sense. Makes sense. I remember I was teaching some of the girls or preteen girls in our kids class, and they didn't want to train with the boys. And I was like, hey, you guys, if somebody were to try to beat you up on the street, you'd want to be the best you could to fight him, right? Even if that's a boy, right? Yeah, you want to train with the guys, because that's like, if somebody was going to bully you. And then they go, yeah. And then each went and grabbed one of the boys, like, no, you're training with me. It was kind of cute.
You're training with me, and then tossing them over, all this kind of stuff. Like, who's bullying who now?
Yeah, I think that was one thing I would tell people too, is like, you're scared of the pain you're going to feel at the gym, but I'm telling you, you're going to be way more scared and way more helpless to find or face that on the street. So you might as well face it from your own initiative and go to a place that's going to teach you how to deal with it than be faced with it when you're helpless.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Give yourself a chance, get some neural pathways going, get some kind of a response in your system to not just freeze,
Correct. And you don't have to go to a jiu-jitsu gym and just die. Like, I feel like some of them are so scared. They're like, I'm going to be sacrificed. No, it doesn't have to be like that. Like, they can temper you into this, and that's okay. Like, in fact, if a gym wants to keep students, especially females, they're going to do it that way. They're going to take care of you. So have a little more trust and suck it up.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yeah. I think that's, the Nike slogan, just do it. And that should be the jiu-jitsu slogan, just do it,
Unless it's something stupid, then that's not. Just do it.
Yeah. Like a big caveat there. Yes. Don't be, have concern for the day one people. Don't heel hook them, please. They don't know.
Don't heel hook the children. Like,
yes. So is there any big tournaments, any more big matches coming up for you that you're in preparation for?
So I'm looking at fighting with, I mix these two tournaments up all the time because they're just about the same. With one fight and who's number one.
Ooh.
I'm looking at fighting with both of them. And I'm also looking at jumping on one of Subversive's next cards, like the combat jiu-jitsu. I'm looking into some of this.
Ooh.
And BJJ Stars. I'm looking into it. Nothing is set up right now. I did just get out of I'm recovering right now from 2 knee injuries, and I had to take a couple months off to let it heal properly, which I wouldn't have otherwise been willing to take off that much time. But considering the risk of, okay, if you make this any worse and you have to get surgery, well, that's 8 months off. Maybe I can suck up a couple months so I don't have to do that. So that's where I'm at. I'm being responsible. I think a good piece of advice could be that I think I just have learned, because I never, if I got hurt or had any sort of small injury, I just wouldn't care. I just keep training, and I did that for years and years and years. I think if you babied even your smallest injury like it was a serious injury, you wouldn't get to serious injuries. I think that might be a better thing. And that doesn't mean necessarily that you have to baby them insofar that you stop training, but maybe, I don't know, if you put that much focus and effort into taking care of a small injury as if it was a serious one that you needed to constantly rehab for, I think people probably wouldn't really get to serious injuries unless it was something really acute, like just happened in a fight. I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned, and 9 times out of 10, those lessons are learned the hard way.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But man, that'll be exciting to see that. Nothing of course official, but that would be very exciting to watch, certainly. But man, I am just excited to see where your next competitions go, and your career continues to go. And it's just crazy to think you're only 23, correct?
Yes.
I mean, man, the sky's the limit, man. And I know they say there's only a short window sometimes for, that high level athletic performance, but you're just you're right at the beginning of it. So who knows where you'll be, 10 years from now. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But thank you so much for just taking the time to talk to me and sticking with it despite all the technical difficulties.
No problem. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share and maybe be impactful. And I'm grateful for your patience and for you reaching out. And sorry about the technical difficulties on my part.
It's A-okay. But enjoy the rest of your day and keep babying your injuries so that you can come out swinging. Well, don't come out swinging, but so you can come out, pull guard, or do the takedown, whichever you prefer.
You can come out shooting. We'll say that. We'll come out shooting.
There we go. There you go. Yes. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, Amy.
You too. No problem.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.